Saturday. Christmas comes early.
Unbelievable! Welcome to this incredible scene.
Bills.
To the end zone!
Chargers.
It's a touchdown!
An exclusive NFL game.
That's fantastic!
Live in primetime.
Wow!
Only on Peacock.
With a Christmas gift to their fans.
They're having some fun now.
Bills versus Chargers. Saturday, 7:30 Eastern. Exclusively on Peacock.
The world is ever-changing, and sometimes we just need a helping hand. Hey, it's Wilmer Valderrama. New apps here, new tech there. It's all very exciting, but it's nice to have something you can count on. Like insurance from State Farm. ¿Tienes preguntas sobre tu seguro? Con State Farm puedes llamar a tu agente o conectar con ellos. Aprende más en es.statefarm.com. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Hello and welcome to the Paddock and the Pavilion with Stephen Wallace. In each show, Stephen will interview someone connected to the world of horse racing or cricket.
Hello everyone. On today's podcast, I'm joined by Stephanie Jardeback, a Swedish mother of two who won her first race for 20 years at Haydock Park on the 4th of August. Welcome, Stephanie.
Thank you very much.
How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. Thanks for having me on.
It was a long wait, but as you said on TV, it's a long story. And how long have you got, you said to the interviewer after you won the race? Well, we've got about 20 to 25 minutes to find out.
I'm sure that's plenty enough time.
Well, there's quite a lot to talk about. Let's begin by going back to the previous winner back in Sweden. What can you remember about that? That was, I think, May 2002.
Yeah. I started to ride in racing when I was about 13, actually. So this would have been 7 years later, I got to win a race finally. So I started riding for a really small trainer called Stanley now when I was 13. And I was there after school every day. So I went to school, came home, cycled out to the stables, rode about 3-4 horses every day. And I did that for 3 years, I think. And then I met Stephen Hill. He used to be a jockey in the UK, and he came over to Sweden, and he was a jockey there. Then he became trainer. So I joined him when I was about 16. And same again, I went to school, came home, rode out for him. The thing is, like in Sweden, racing is really small. So staff is hard to find, and staff that can ride race horses especially. And it so happens to be that we were in the same village where I grew up. So that was really handy for him, because then that meant he didn't need to get his jockey friends to come and ride out for him. And he taught me loads, like race riding and how to break in yearlings. We went to Doncaster and he bought some horses there in the sales. So I got a feel of being here in the UK. He helped me get my license, my amateur license. And the first horse I rode was for him. That was
So how old were you when you rode your first race?
18. And that was at Abbey in Stockholm, which that track doesn't exist anymore. But it had been raining solid for days, and this was like in July or something. So it was just, you could just mirror yourself. It was that much water on the track. So I came back. It was a mile and a half, and I was last the whole way around, and I was covered in mud. And he just laughed at me when I came back. And I remember my legs were like jelly. I was so nervous and had been on a strict diet. I don't know why, because I didn't need to be that light, but I was like 50 kilos. I was so weak. But obviously, I got more rides. I had about 17, 18 rides in the end. Got rides for different trainers. After a couple of years, 2001, I started riding for this trainer at Jägersro, which is in Malmo. So I went to uni that year, and in the mornings I used to go to the racetrack and ride work, and then change in my car, and off I went to university.
You were juggling things even then?
Yeah. And at the end of that university year, I then got to ride this horse called High, and he really reminds me of Billy, actually, when I think back. He's same build, same kind of type of horse. Billy's a bit more quirky, but lovely horse. Gelding as well. I think he was 7 years old, and he had been piloted by other amateur jockeys that worked for him, and also won. So he was great, But then I had already booked my ticket to go traveling to Australia.
We're going to come back to that. So I just wanted to start with by getting you to talk about your first winner for 20 years, and you've mentioned there Billy, which is Billy Roberts, the 9-year-old that you rode to victory at Haydock in the 5:07, a handicap for female amateurs, trained by Simon Whitaker. Were you confident before the race? Because looking at his form, he'd been second in the previous 3 races, and you'd been second on him at Pontefract yourself.
Yeah, well, Dean, who owns him, he had it all planned out in his head. But we going back to the start of all this with Billy, me and Dean and Amanda, who we ride out for Simon, and we were joking about it, like, no, I would love to ride again, and just once, to have that feeling again. And Dean said, well, we can sort. I get your license, and you can ride Billy. So I was like, oh, okay. So thought about it, and come to this year. He was looking at the fixtures from last year, and he said there's a race that you can ride at Ascot. So that was on the 5th of May, I think it was, yeah. So we had him here over winter. He won 3 races last year, came home for the winter, and I started riding him in March, I think it was, this year. And I think I only rode him once at Simon's the year before, like last year, and I didn't really like him because he's really quirky and he's pulling his head and he's got his tongue out and it's like strutting everywhere. I was like, you can have him back. I said, I don't want to ride him. But so he was here at home. I thought, right, I'm going to have to get used to this horse, and because it's the only way I'm ever going to get near a racetrack. So tacked him up, and we were riding around among Fryston in the fields, and cantering him around, and got to know him. So he went okay. We went into Simon's then. The race at Ascot changed, so because it was last year's fixture, so we aimed for I think it was the race at Haydock.
Yeah, you were 5th on him at Haydock, weren't you?
Yeah. The thing was, it was a bit too far for him, and we weren't sure if he was going to stay. But at the end, it looked like he was. So we thought we'll try him at Ascot. And it just going to Ascot is amazing on its own. So I was like, oh my God, okay, we're going to Ascot. But he was the worst horse in the race, so he didn't really have a chance. But, you never know. You never know. You have to try. But after that, we said, right, next race will be at Pontefract. That will be the right distance for him. And when we came up the last two furlongs, Serena Brotherton, she kind of stole the race because she went to the stand side, which was faster ground. But Billy actually, he didn't run too bad on the softer surface. And the race after that, I think it was at Haydock again. It was firm ground, and he always liked firm ground, but he didn't that day. So Dean thought he might actually like good ground now. Because
this is Dean McEwen, the ex-jockey as well, isn't it?
Yes, sorry. So looking at the card going to Haydock, it looked like he would have a good chance because there were slower horses in the race that needed longer distance. And we knew Billy had a bit of speed in him at the end there. So I was pretty confident. Well, I wasn't confident. Dean was confident because, he knows Billy now and he can read a race. He's just such a good judge of form. And but I'm always nervous. I'm always doubting myself. But he just said, no, you're going to win. You're going to win. So he said, just try and see if you can get cover, because he settles really well when he gets cover from another horse. And if it doesn't work out, you take the lead and see what happens.
Well, you won by a neck, but you looked like you were going to win easily from a long way out, didn't you?
Yeah. I come around, the other half of the track, I actually got squeezed, so I was pushed back. And I thought, oh my God, this is not working out because I'm really far back now. And then I thought, I'll just save some ground going around the rail, around the bend. And then I just felt I had so much horse underneath me. I thought this might work out, actually. So I just crept up, past a few horses, and I thought I might win this, actually. And then when I passed all the other horses, and there was just silence. I was like, what's going on? Is there no one else behind me? I couldn't hear anyone. But then obviously Emily came up next to me. She was gaining again, but I could see the finish line, and I wasn't really worried. But it was just, I couldn't believe it. First over the line, amazing. Because
a long time from the race in Malmo. Although Billy Roberts is, I was looking up, he's run 62 times. He's won 10 races. He's still got the legs to win more races.
Yeah, I rode him today, and it just feels amazing. It hasn't taken anything out of him. So hopefully we can go again next week to Redcar. Hopefully. He's rated 72 now because he won, and it's I think it's 51 to 70. But if there's not enough horses, he might get in. And it would be amazing because my mum will be here that week. She hasn't been here for a long, long time. She's had cancer, and her husband's had cancer, and she was saying, when I start riding again, she said, "Oh, maybe one day I can see you ride again," and it might happen. It might happen.
Well, that'll be something to look forward to. Now, we just go back to your beginnings. You talked about when you first started riding at a stable in Sweden. Is there any sort of in your family any horsey background there, or was it just as growing up where you just liked animals or horses?
Both my mum and my auntie, they were involved with horses, but it was show jumping, venting and stuff like that. My auntie had a riding school, so that's where I started riding, and there was a pony there, a little piebald pony called Mimi. I used to ride. I have vague memories of her pulling her head down, so I fell off in the mud with head first. But yeah, so gradually, obviously, I was there every week riding, joined lessons when I got older, and my auntie's a great instructor. And it was when she sold that farm, she kept her warm blood that she used to do eventing with. And I then... I used to ride him in the stable where he was based. They only had 3 stables. So it was her warm blood Sultan and a little pony called Cognac that she kept. And the other horse, the people who owned that place, they were involved in racing. And that was just the one horse that they had. He was a racehorse. And so I used to see them. Their son used to ride it around in the field. They had a little strip around the field where they used to canter him, and I was like, oh my God, that is just wonderful, this just looks amazing. And I had been reading up about horse racing, reading books about it and stuff like that. I used to read a lot, and I never felt like show jumping and dressage and all that was for me. I never really thought, oh, I'm gonna get stuck into this. But horse racing, I just wanted to become a jockey, basically. But racing is really small in Sweden. But I ended up going to the races with this family, and their son was riding for this Sten Linnell that I joined when I was 13, because Marcus was his name. He had allergy, basically. He was allergic to horses, so he wasn't really ideal for him to carry on, so I kind of took over. So going back to my family then, my mum had a horse when I was born, who I think he was only there for 2 years, my first 2 years, but I don't think she's ever ridden since. But she used to, go to pony clubs, and that when she was young, and there's always been horses.
So it's in your blood, in the family, then.
Yeah. Even my dad, he used to ride as well. You know, he used to ride my auntie's horse, which I then ended up riding, and always had animals in the family.
And then just moving forward, when you left Sweden, you said you went travelling. Was it just the student in you that wanted to go travelling around the world then?
Yeah, just, I always thought like grass is always greener over there. Well, it's not really. But yeah, you have to see it for yourself. And it was a dream for me to go to Australia because it just sounded amazing. And I had, like I said, I had booked tickets to go when I won on 8 high. And the trainer said, if you stay, I'll give you more rides. And he said, you can ride Smoke Bush there. He was one of the better ones in the stable. I was like, I really appreciate that, but I have already made my mind up and I booked this flight to go and I'm going. So, yeah, I went traveling, brought my boots and helmet in the bag just in case, something came up. But I just wanted to do something different for a while.
And you went to Chantilly, didn't you? And to Ireland as well.
Yeah, so I just travelled Australia, New Zealand, came back to Sweden for a few months, tried different jobs that wasn't racing. Obviously didn't like it. And then Stephen called me up one day and he said, this trainer needs a work rider in Chantilly. Do you want to go? I said, yeah, when am I going? So I think it took me 2 weeks and I was there. So that just tells you how much I missed it. I took a year. It was probably a year I took off from winning 8 high to getting back into it. And obviously it was abroad. It was exciting, a new place, new people. And Chantilly is beautiful. It really is. I really liked it there. And then when the trainer was Norwegian, so when the horses went back for the summer then to race in Scandinavia, I went to Ireland because I met my ex there. He worked there as well. So he had been to John Oxx. So that's how we ended up there.
Yeah, and at John Oxx's, you were riding work with Derby and Art winning jockey Johnny Murtagh. Yes,
I think it was just once. But
you still did though, yeah?
Still did. And I rode with Mick Kinane a few times as well. I actually have the worksheet still. I've saved it because I rode Pepperwood, I think he was called, and he was on Asamoah. So I couldn't believe that I got to ride with these jockeys, and now that John Oxx put me with them. It's just amazing.
What was it like to work for John Oxx?
Great. He's a lovely man, very knowledgeable. Like he's a vet as well. Just lovely man, and easy to work for.
It must have been a lot different riding out in Sweden than when you were riding out with John Oxx in Ireland.
Oh, huge difference. Like in Sweden, there's 2 dirt tracks, 2 grass courses, and a string of 4 to 6 there is huge. I mean, I don't remember any stables having more than 30 horses. So John Oxx, I think he had about 140 horses in the yard and about 60 on the farm on the other side of Kildare, where the yearlings were. And we'd be about 40 riders in the string. So big difference. And it was on the Curragh, like the difference there as well is like everything is open. There's no railing as such. Well, when you go to the old Vic, which is near the racetrack, there's a rail. And there's sheep everywhere. And, John would have to drive his car around and chase the sheep away before we could ride on the gallop. So some mornings it was just, amusing. The sheep would be lying there asleep and that. But it always worked out well in the end and that. But same with the facilities there on the Curragh. I had never worked on grass before. So that was a big difference for me. There was obviously dirt gallops that we went around every day, but mainly they did the work on grass or up the old Vic.
And we mentioned it before, you were at John's when Alam Shah won the Irish Derby and the King George, and Azamor also won the King George. And you remember the Irish Derby victory of Alam Shah in 2003.
Yeah, I was there. I had only really started working for John Oxx then, so it was all very huge for me because coming from Sweden, like I said, in the racing is so small. The crowd was just like it was people everywhere. You could barely see anything. Yeah, I remember Alam Shah. He wasn't favourite, and he was owned by Aga Khan, and he had the second colours. They were striped, so they didn't look anything like the Aga Khan colours. And Dalekani was the favourite. But yeah, it was just amazing when Alam Shah won it, and he was the better of the two. And we knew the groom, obviously, John Hines, and then he actually then was the groom to Azamor the next year, who also won lots of group races. And he was also groomed to see the stars later on. So yeah, I was delighted for John to have another big horse like that in his stable.
And then at some point, then you returned back to Sweden, didn't you?
Not quite, because my ex, he left John Oxx and he went to work for Kildangan Stud. So eventually I also ended up with Kildangan Stud, which is part of Darley. And we did yearlings, we broke yearlings. And I was listening to that interview you did with Ron Hutchinson last night. And when he said he stepped off the plane in Dublin in February and he felt the cold, I could just relate to that because it was freezing in the wintertime. It's a different cold to Sweden. It's like wet, and I just missed the sun so much.
Well, Ron's got an excuse. Ron comes from Melbourne.
I know.
You come from Sweden. I thought Sweden was always cold.
Not in the summer. It's really warm. But yeah, so I've been in Ireland for a while. It's like I really need a bit of sun on my back, and got this job offer in Greece. So me and my ex, because we'd done yearlings together, we ended up breaking yearlings for a trainer in Greece for the winter. And it turns out it wasn't really that warm in Greece in the winter anyway. But yeah, it was an experience. But then we thought we'd better get back to main horse racing country. So we went to England and ended up with Henry Candy. So I was there for about 2 years. Also a lovely man, Henry Candy. So he reminds me a lot about John Oxx. They're kind of similar people. But then, yeah, I decided I've had enough of this now. I want to go back to Sweden because I miss my family. And so I think it was end of 2006, I went back to Sweden. And then I didn't sit on a horse again for another 12 years, I think it was.
Is that when you had 2 children when you were in Sweden as well?
Yeah. 2012, my son Keane was born, and I was working in a sports store over those years. Not the whole time, but I had different jobs. But the main part I worked for Intersport. But I always thought about horse racing. I always missed it. It was always there at the back of my mind. But because you can't watch English racing on TV there, I just blocked it out. I'm not going to think about it. I'm just going to block it out, and then it's not going to worry me. But when I was pregnant with my second child, Erin, and me and my ex, we had to move anyway to have a bigger place. So it was like stay in Sweden or move somewhere else. And my ex is Irish, so he wanted to go somewhere different. So I said, okay, well let's go to England then. So that was in 2015. And I think it was just 2 months before my little girl Erin was born. So it was touch and go if we were going to make it or not, to find a place. And it was a bit crazy, but that's how we ended up here again.
If you're anything like me, you're booked and busy. From family duties and work responsibilities to catching up on your favorite shows and podcasts. Yes, like Wrestling with Freddie. With me, Freddie Prinze Jr. With all the responsibilities we have, It's always nice to have someone in your corner. That's why State Farm is there for you with your auto and home insurance needs, helping you protect the things you love and helping you save money. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Call or go to statefarm.com for a quote today. State Farm, proud sponsor of the My Cultura Podcast Network.
So you must have had a desire to ride again, though. Yeah.
Yeah, and then obviously I started watching racing on TV and, getting back into it, listening and, just started to miss it really. And when I worked in racing in the past, there was no social media like there is now. And I started following jockeys on Instagram and seeing their stories, like Enable and stuff like that. And I was like, oh my God, I'd love to do it again, So yeah, that's when I got in contact with Richard Fahey in 2019. And I just wanted to ride a little bit. I didn't want to do it full time because obviously it was a mum and I had other responsibilities. And find a job that suited school hours was not easy. But once a week I rode out and start at 7:00. And I know Richard don't know, but I hadn't sat on a horse for 12 years. I had 7 lots that morning.
Oh, you kept that quiet, did you? Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't say it to anyone. But I could barely sit for 2 weeks. I was in agony. But I didn't say anything. My right arm was dead. I came back the next week and I had to sort of hold my arm when I had a horse that pulled. It was really, really painful. But I just thought, no, I have to do this. I'm not going to give it away. And after a few weeks, my body got used to it again. But yeah.
And you got the bug again. You're now at Simon Whitaker's yard in West Yorkshire near Leeds. What can you tell me about Simon's yard?
Yeah, well, the reason why I ended up with Simon was because I was looking for someone that was closer to home because it was 15-minute drive to Richards in Malton. So it was a bit of a trek to get there and back. So honestly, I didn't make any money really going there, but it was just, I wanted to do it. And then I contacted Simon. They didn't have any availability at the moment, but after lockdown, he contacted me and asked me if I wanted to come and ride out. And I said, yeah, okay, I can do it, but I don't want to do it full time. But then it sort of ended up like I took the kids to school, then I went to ride out. So I still had 3 lots at Simon's. So I could go there every day instead of 1 day a week. So it worked out really well. And that's why I decided to stay.
What's a typical day like for you? I know when you were interviewed on the television after winning the race, you said how busy you were.
Yeah, well, it's got busier this year because I've added dog boarding into my life. So I haven't really made myself any favours that way. But well, me and Dean, we live on a livery yard, and so we have to obviously look after these horses that we have. So I wake up about 5:30, 6 o'clock, and about 6:30 we're out there mucking out, getting them ready, going on the walker, put them on the out in the fields. Then about 7:30 we go over to Simon's. We're there about 8 o'clock, right out there till around midday, and yeah, then we come home. If we haven't finished the stables here, we finish them, and then we have lunch. And then, yeah, the day carries on. I run, I do exercises. The horses need to come in. If I have dogs, one of us stay at home and look after the dogs. Obviously, they have to be walked as well in the morning. So it depends if I have dogs or not, because then obviously I have to get up earlier. Because we help each other out, so to make the day work. I have my children every other week, because share with my ex, and so when they're here, they have to go to school. So obviously we drop them to school, and then we go together to Simon's to save fuel, as we have to do these days. So yeah. The reason why we started doing dog boarding is because there was more horses here last year, and we had some leaving, and I was thinking we have to make that income have to get that income back that we've lost. And then a friend of mine, she was going on holiday. She said, you have such a big space. Would you mind looking after my dog when I go away on holiday?
So one led to quite a few more. Yeah.
Yeah, and I thought, oh, wow, yeah, you're right. I could do something with this. And then I looked up like dog boarding, what do people charge? And yeah, you get a lot more for a dog a day than you do for a horse a day staying here. So yeah, it's worked out really well, actually.
And you have a funny story about the dogs on the Haydock winning race day.
The day of the race at Haydock, I hadn't slept at all that night. I was so nervous thinking about it, the race going through my head. And so I got up really early. Anyway, we had some dogs. We had one dog. I walked it, went to work. I was there at 7:00 and rode a few horses. I came back. Dean was going to take Billy to the races, so he had to get in the bath and so on. And we had 3 dogs arrive while I was in work. And one was a little sausage dog that big. Anyway, they were back, and so he was scared. So he kept hiding everywhere. And Dean said, right, don't let him out because he's an escape artist. I was like, right. So I put the 2 Cocker Spaniels at the front of the house. And I thought I can put the other 2 there because he was scared. So I thought I'll just remove those dogs. Anyway, I came back in. Back door was open. I thought, there's only one dog here. So I just panicked. I thought I went out on the guard because he was really tiny, so he could have snuck through the fence anywhere. I thought, this dog is gone. I just walked around the garden shouting for him, Ernie. There's obviously nothing there. And I thought, this dog is gone. I'm not going to get to Haydock today. So I had my breeches still on, took my son's Crocs, ran around the whole village looking for this dog, right? Crying, I was. I couldn't believe I'm going to miss this day. So I came back in and Dean said, where did you see him last? So I saw him in the kitchen before I put those dogs out the front. Anyway, so we went around, looked in the house. There he was, hiding in the corner of the kitchen side table there. I couldn't believe it. My whole world just fell apart running after this dog, and he was just there. The funny thing is, right, when the owners came to drop little Ernie off, they said, oh, we're off to Haydock. And they was like, oh, we'll see you there.
So the owners of the dog were at one point going to get to Haydock to watch, and you weren't going to be there if you hadn't found the dog.
I had arranged for someone, Dean's daughter who lives next door, she was going to look after the dogs just for those hours we were away, but I didn't say that to anyone because the race had just popped up. I wasn't supposed to ride that day, really. We were aiming to go to Carlisle on the ladies' jockeys day, but that didn't happen. So I had dogs booked in that Friday, but I had no dogs on the Monday when the Carlisle meeting was on. So anyways, you have to work around things, but they were fine with it. All right, we'll see you later then. And so when I was in the parade ring at Haydock, they were there and I had never met them. Dean had met them in the morning. So I was like,
luckily you found their dog, didn't you?
And I win the race and I come back to the winner's enclosure and they were there. I said, this is just crazy. And I have their dog in my house. Well, the last half furlong, I was so tired because the whole night of no sleep and then running after that dog and the stress and all, and I was finished. I was absolutely finished, but I won anyway, so it doesn't matter.
The dogs are certainly keeping you busy, Stephanie.
Yeah, they do, but I love dogs, I love horses, I love animals, so I get to work with something that I really enjoy, so I'm busy, but I'm happy being busy. So,
what's it like working for Simon? Is it a nice yard to work at?
Yeah. They have about 20 horses, about 12 of them. I'm sort of going all right at the moment. It's a nice little family yard in the countryside.
And do you ride out Billy Roberts?
Yes,
most days?
I ride Billy, or Dean ride Billy every day. And we even take him to the races when I ride. Like Dean drives the horse box, and it's a right little operation. But we don't gain anything from it really. We just enjoy it for what it is, the thrill.
Well, that's what it's all about. That's why you came back to ride, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it is. People don't really understand, like when you're in racing, how much passion you have for it, because it's not something you do to be rich. That's for sure. It costs more than you gain, really, but it's worth it. Not like days like when you have a winner, it's worth everything, and we really enjoy it. I really enjoy it, and for Dean it means a lot as well to see me and Billy, to win, because he's had Billy since he was a yearling. He broke him in, and they just love each other, them two. It's really nice to see.
Well, Billy's first race was in I looked up June 2015, and he's been ridden by Paul Mulrennan, Jamie Spencer, the champion jockey, ex-champion jockey, John Egan have all ridden Billy. So you're following quite a few well-known jockeys.
It's been around a while, the Billy, but he's in his best form ever at the moment. He's squealing and jumping around. He's just full of life. It's lovely to see horses that age still going so well. It's a real thrill.
Well, hopefully your mum will be able to see you when he races next time. What would it be like for your mum to be there watching you live?
That would be amazing. Like, she's been going through so much lately, and her husband had cancer, she had cancer, now her husband has cancer again, so she's found it really tricky to get to England to visit us. Obviously with lockdown, I've barely seen her. So hopefully next week we can get in at Redcar. If it rains and the ground is a bit on the softer side of good, that would be perfect, and hopefully it will happen.
I wanted to mention your mum because she has a connection to the Nobel Prizes. Can you tell me about that?
She has done the artwork to the Nobel Prize laureates, the diploma that they get. They always have half the side is art, and the other side is obviously the inscription of describing the Nobel Prize and why they've won it. It's all really professionally made. Like the leather is specific leather, specific color, from if it's a physics prize or economy prize, chemistry. It's really a prestigious thing to have done. And they only select certain artists. They get to be Nobel artists for 3 years, and they don't know how they pick them. Like, they contacted my mom to say that she was nominated. She was one of the few that year. And the day before my dad's funeral, they rang her and said that she got it. So it was really, really emotional, because my dad knew that she had been nominated, but obviously he didn't get to experience it all. But he had said, like, because when she did the physics prize, which Alfred Nobel considered being the most prestigious prize, she was then invited to go to the Nobel award ceremony. So you can't buy a ticket to this; you have to be invited. So she was given 2 tickets, and obviously she could then choose who she wanted to bring with her. And my dad had said, if I don't get to live to that day, bring Stephanie. It was really emotional. And the 3rd year she did it, that's when she got to go. So we got all done up and looked like 2 little princesses trotting down the street, in midwinter. It was so cold. Oh my God. Stockholm in December, it's not a very warm place. But yeah, it was just amazing. The king and queen were there, the prince was there. So the king held the diploma in his hand when he handed it to to them, but it was actually Peter Higgs from the UK that won it that year, and physics. So it was just amazing to experience it all. And then after that was the banquet, and I was sat near the stairs for all the royals and everyone at the centre table. The important people, they were sat there. So when they were walking down the stairs, I was just stood there, and it was just like an out-of-body experience. And it's all televised as well, just so many people, millions of people watched it. And they'd asked my mum to do an interview on TV that night. And it was the first time they had ever interviewed an artist involved in this with the diplomas. And I stood there in the background, and I was typing to my friend, "She's on TV now." And they were like, "Yeah, we can see you in the background on your phone." But yeah, so she was interviewed by the TV, and it was just really wonderful experience.
Well, thanks for sharing that with me. You must have been emotional with your dad passing away just before that as well.
Yeah, it was.
Thank you very much for sharing your story, Stephanie. First winner for 20 years. Hopefully there's going to be a lot more winners now, and Billy Roberts can go past that finishing line again. Hopefully even when your mum's watching in a short period of time at Redcar.
I hope so. I really hope so. Any chance I get to ride is, I'm just so grateful to get the chance. So fingers crossed.
Yes.
There'll be more to come.
Well, thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you for listening to The Paddock and the Pavilion. You can download the show on Apple Podcasts,
Amazon Music,
SoundCloud, Stitcher and Spotify.
Follow us on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram at The Pad and Pav. Don't forget, if you like the show, please do leave us a rating and review.
Sports Social Podcast Network.
For Mervis Diamond Importers, I'm Ronnie Mervis. Once again, Mervis sets the standard for jewelry. You've got to see our new collection. Straight row diamond tennis bracelets remain a favorite. They're simple and elegant. Our neck pieces are so sexy, they're almost illegal. Imagine a perfect diamond, suspended from a delicate gold chain, resting securely in the small of her throat. What a beautiful, sensuous gift. Our magnificent diamond bands will melt her heart. The Mervis diamonds are ferociously brilliant. They seem to leap out at you. The designs are daring and rare. You'll find them at one place only, Mervis. And as for earrings, Mervis proudly shows the newest diamond ear studs, dangles, hoops, and anything else you can imagine. When you really love her, show it with Mervis Diamond Jewelry, the best there is. Two philosophies unite everything at Mervis. The finest quality and legendary Mervis value. The prices are almost too good to be true. Come see for yourself. She'll thank you forever. Mervis Diamond Importers. Financing is available. Go to mervisdiamond.com. Again, that's mervisdiamond.com or call 1-800-PER-LOVE.